City of Portsmouth gets some much-needed money to restore historical cemeteries.
In particular, this effort will help cemeteries where African Americans were buried before the start of the 20th century.
13 News Now reporter Chanu Her went to Portsmouth today, where a bill on the matter was signed into law.
Mount Calvary now becomes the third cemetery in the state to get this funding. People with relatives buried here say they finally get a much-needed helping hand.
For relatives who are still here, it's a big day.
The ancestors will be singing and dancing.
But they're sure those who have already passed are celebrating just as much.
The culmination of many years in that the ancestors were taken care of by relatives, veterans.
For years, the African American Historical Society of Portsmouth has looked after the Mount Calvary complex with help from volunteers.
When we clean our family plots, we would clean around the plots that may be some other people that we don't even know.
The Harris brothers, Joseph and Matthew, have been among volunteers who for years have maintained the cemetery. They have family buried there.
My grandmother's out there and aunt.
On Friday, they finally got a helping hand from Governor Ralph Northam.
We need to do everything that we can to preserve that history.
He signed 2 bills into law to help fund the restoration and renovation of the historic African American grave sites.
I'm glad to be here because I came from Philadelphia. And
a far trip to be close to something near and dear to his family.
We have some big things happening for us during this decade.
In Portsmouth, Chanu Her, 13 News Now.